So gentlemen, just drop your cameras. I think my chairman has a pool. The honorable chairman, you drop your cameras.
We're rolling already.
Thank you. Lady and gentlemen of the press, my senior colleagues in the MPC, my fellow Liberians in Radio Land, and those in the diaspora listening to us. The MPC will be coming to you once a week, possibly every Friday, so we're starting it today. On some days I will be speaking on these issues. On some days my colleagues will be speaking on the various issues that affect us, that we need to be talking about. That's the spirit and process of democracy, where we speak, we engage, where commendation is needed, we grant, where there are special challenges, we recognize them, where solutions needs to be presented, we suggest those solutions with the hope that the government will use the solution for the good of our country. We firstly want to start with the issue of formation of the government still delayed. In our mind, that's quite unfortunate. When Mr. Boyka was elected, he was out of this country for more than 3 weeks. We thought that a rescue team should have had a better engagement with the outgoing administration in terms of the transitional team to be able to protect government assets. 3 weeks was more than enough to try to form a government that would hit the ground running. You could not be on VOA talking about 100 days deliverable when in fact almost 50 days into your administration the government is not yet formed. We think it demonstrates a huge lack of capacity, and not just that, you have crisis brewing at our mining concessions, and we think all of this is a clear result of the lack of capacity that we have warned that Boyka did not have. He's too old to govern the country, he doesn't have energy, neither does he have the capacity. And we warn about that, and it's beginning to manifest itself. We strongly believe that the so-called 100 days deliverable was just an empty talk. Our people must ignore people who only want to lead for the fulfillment of their childhood dreams. Boyka wanted to be president as far back as 1982. Not that he wanted to be president because he had any clear vision, because his entire performance record showed that. Wherever he served in government, he's basically just a bureaucrat. And he lacks the capacity and energy to lead the trillions of problems we have in this country. Bad road, poor education, health, failing economy, inflation. All of these things are serious problems, and we think you need a serious person with a performance track record from the private sector to lead our country. The president of Liberia clearly must have energy, vitality, creativity, education, and a proven performance track record to move this country forward. So far, Boyka's biggest deliverable is the killing of our people in Western Liberia, fixing of his residence, buying himself some new clothes, and some fake drug test report that he and his 419 vice president presented to us. Almost 50 days into the administration, the drug committee formed by President Boyka have not even met. Ministers involved don't even have cars to go to work. Or deputy ministers have not even been appointed as some of them. So you can see that it was all talk. The government of Liberia is already financially obese. But the recent presidential appointments reveal that there will be increased financial costs. Positions like director of the cabinet that have become redundant have all been resuscitated. Several advisors in government, some ministries, they have deputy ministers, additional deputy ministers have been appointed, labor and some other places. You have additional deputy ministerial portfolios have been created. Every time you create an additional structure in government, that's a cost, additional cost. There's already a track. Charles Taylor left about 35,000, Charles Taylor to Judy Bryant left about 35,000 government workers. Ellen took it to 50,000, 55,000. We are talking to 70,000. So with all of these creations, you're going to take it up further. We're talking $314 million spent on payroll, including pensioners. Then you also have another $283 million spent on recurrent and non-financial costs. If you increase, so now you're talking a total of 597 million United States dollars that is part of the government expenditure envelope. So with all of these costs increase, every one of those offices needs to be staffed. They need to bring more people to government. What that means is the cost of running the government will exceed more than 600 million before this year ends. And we think that is worrying. We think there are more creative ways in which you can reward loyalists other than creating additional deputy ministerial portfolios. And to this end, we will advance all sorts of suggestions at the close of these issues that we identified. The thousands of government employees affected by harmonization brave the storm, the rain, and on the day of the Unity Party launch, thousands of people got onto the streets in the rain. And these were mostly harmonized employees. It is clear at this juncture, with all of these creations, that the issue of harmonized pay would never be discussed. Those people who braved the storm, hoping to get some kind of solution under the Boyka administration, it's not going to happen. Boyka is a consummate bureaucrat, incapable of getting anything done other than making fine speeches. So the harmonized pay is all gone, and I can predict that if you're not careful, you will have another harmonized arrangement, because if we're not careful, the wage bill, the number of people working for government may probably rise for about another 10, 15,000, and it means that you will have to find money to pay them. Right now, like I told you, we're spending $597 million just to support the government. Just the government, I'm not even talking about, I'm just talking about the government expenditure envelope alone, not in terms of projects or anything, because they divided it into something called PSRP, you know, the Public Sector Investment Program. So the PSRP is when they fix some kind of road or build some toilet somewhere, then they said, you know, they've done some level of investment for the people. So I'm not even talking about the PSRP budget, I'm just talking about the core expenditure, recurrent and non-financial expense, and salaries. But all hope is not lost, we want to say to the people of Liberia, Simeon Freeman and the MPC, when we have the opportunity for power in this country, we will create jobs, deal with the issue of education, health, and above all else, create a very vibrant economy. We are quite troubled and disheartened by what happened in the Western Liberia with the killing of Liberians that had issues with management. We think this thing was so simple. You could have dispatched the Ministry of Labor and the officials to go to deal with grieving people and find out whether they had issues in the first place, or not whether they had issues, but whether the issues were legitimate, and engage with the management and try to solve these problems. But one of the first tactics is to begin to use live bullets on our people. We think that's sad, and we think that's troubling, and we urging for the perpetrators to be brought to justice as quickly as possible, so that we don't have this culture where whenever there is a challenge, people use live bullets. Because when you start to use live bullets, when another group of aggrieved people come together to demonstrate, they may also get their own bullets because they know they could be shot at. So we want to encourage the government to discourage this approach because it's not going to add value to us as a people. The issue of the budget delay. The draft national budget, almost 50 days later, still non-available, has not been provided. You know, and this opens us up to a core debate. And the debate clearly is, should we meet everybody in government when a new government takes over as an enemy of the new government because they work under the old administration? And I think that's where the challenge is to the civil service. The framers of the Constitution have three institutions: civil service, GAC, and NEC. And the reason was that the civil service is supposed to be the heart of the government. So if we have key positions within the ministries of finance and other ministries that are manned by technicians that are employed under the civil service agency, then it doesn't matter who becomes minister, who becomes deputy minister, who becomes whatever. If we say to be a director, you have to be a civil servant and you must have the competence. All these kinds of issues wouldn't even come to pass because then a new minister will not be struggling to find the requisite technicians to firstly understand the budget before drafting it. So almost 50 days later, we're not talking deliverable, even a budget cannot be presented. So lesson learned is that the civil service agency, these key positions must be preserved for the good of our country and for the good of public policy. And that brings us into the issue of many of these positions, tenure positions. We're hearing some of the very sick and weak argument about the fact that these institutions were not created by the Constitution. That's very weak. The Constitution gives power to the legislature to create these institutions. So then let's shut down LEC that was not created by the Constitution. It was created by the legislature. Let's shut down LTA, let's shut down all of these institutions that were created by the legislature. The legislature represents the people and they have the power to create. Now, in order to avoid, now let's take the central bank. The central bank is not created by the Constitution, it's created by an act of the legislature. Now, if you don't tenure the central bank governor position, somebody is president and say, my man, bring all the money over there, put it in one plane, I'm going. The man is not a 10-year man. He's going to take all that money because he's afraid to be fired. He serves at the will and pleasure of the president. Because he's not a 10-year guy, he could take all the money. Take Social Security, similar thing. Social Security collect money from various institutions, private and public, and it has a lot of money. It has a lot of money, and these are investments. When you reach age 60, then you're supposed to start being paid, and I stand to be corrected. But if you start to appoint people like the LTA, the act that created those institutions, and all of these institutions that are tenured, basically have said, I mean, all of these institutions created tenure positions and said, look, we want people serving in these positions for a time limit so that there will be consistency in engagement with the private sector, so that tomorrow you don't get up and somebody has been fired. And so it also says the president appoints them. Now, so here's the thing. It says the president. It doesn't say President Boyka. It doesn't say President Freeman. It says the president. So they were appointed by a president for a tenure. If this president wants to create jobs for his people, simply put, pay the people off. If they acquiesce, if they don't, and they want to serve their tenure, they serve, and then you can now appoint when the other guy's tenure is exhausted. But all of these positions basically were created for public policy stability, which doesn't threaten the whole concept of tenure. So the fact that a president can come to power and appoint just everybody, we need to move away from that fallacy. The other weak argument they're placing is that these people campaign. But nowhere it says that when you are a 10-year employee, your rights have been seized. that you can't campaign for somebody or you can't promote. America that will follow for democracy. Journalists on the radio support a party and say it openly. Journalists, civil society guys support a party and say it openly. Tell your employees support that. So the issue of the ombudsman that is being misunderstood, the ombudsman is supposed to do a few things. If there are violations, like in the case where it says resign 2 years prior to, if you want to be a representative or senator, or other things, like for example, you are a minister using government car to go to a campaign rally, they can hold you for that, and then penalties can be defined. The legislature have not done that. A law has not been passed. Suddenly now we want to use that. Turks are being sent. Are these not some of the same things that happened under the Weir administration, where this guy from, well, I think LERT or something, when Weir came to power, he was booted out, Turks went there. So you came to rescue. What are you rescuing? So if you come in with the same gangster attitude, then how different are you? So, you know, we want to encourage the media to challenge these kinds of things, because these kinds of occurrences cannot be allowed to prosper or fester in our society. We must challenge them head on. Then we also are drawn to the no car stuck in the mud policy. 100 days later, by March, April, the road to the southeast will be a no-go zone. We have not formed a government, so there is no issue. We have not even submitted a budget. So there is no issue of 100 days. You know, I think President Boyka went to America, somebody gave him some fine wine, and the guy was just talking. No cars talking, the mud policy, you know, 100 days, this will not happen. These things don't happen like that. You have to sit down with your technicians, understand the core challenges, and then proffer clear solutions. But you went and were talking, now we're asking where do we stand with that policy. Liberians in Ghana, Bujumbura, have been harassed, challenged, assaulted. Ghana is a sisterly country, an Anglophone country in West Africa, part of the ECOWAS protocol. We have thousands of Ghanaians living in this country. Cape Man, Sino, Riverses, Bassop, Montserrat. We are not troubling them. They've been here for years. Some of them even carry Liberian passports. We think the government of Liberia quickly need to address this issue so that we don't have a case where Liberians are treated anyhow, anywhere, by any of our neighbors. The issue of the killing of Josephus took about 42 years, what I'm told. Yeah. Look, let's face it. I've spoken to a lot of people. I have one of my nieces living in a Parker-Pin area there. She says she's been trying to talk to LEC for the last 1 year. And a lot of you probably know. LEC comes in the area, everybody's excited. You try to go to LEC, it's to and fro, unless you know somebody there's a who know you system. And if you don't know anybody, you don't get connected. So the people say eventually, after going to and fro, they just do something that is illegal and get connected because the power is available. They can't afford a generator, so they take that. So I think the problem with LEC is that LEC must firstly overhaul itself to be able to provide the meters. The LEC needs funding. It must go to a bank, get a loan, and we can always be on, we're waiting for European Union, we're waiting for the LEC is a business. That's why I look under a Simeon Freeman administration. LEC, one of the first institutions I will lease out. Before we even come to privatizing it, we lease it also, it become a money-making institution rather than the way we currently current. And so we think if you have sufficient meters, right, and you're selling out these meters and connecting people, there's somebody else I know who, the guy got a meter, and you know the meter comes, I'm told, with some $15. He was calling them to open a meter, the $15 ran out, and there was a whole nother stuff again. They had to send somebody else because they say when it runs out, there's something they have to do on the meter. It's a lot of stress people report. So sometimes too, these things have to be looked at from 2 points. If you want people to obey the rules, you have your phone. If you want to get a new SIM card today, you can go on the street and easily get a SIM card. There will be no need for theft. But I think LEC itself is incentivizing the process. So firstly, we say de-incentivize the process by overhauling yourselves and make all of these meters available. Then we will now appeal to the legislature to criminalize power tech if it is not already the case. Now, if you have the meters and LEC as a system is providing it, then we can look at it from that perspective of criminalizing. But in the same vein, we want to urge the government to quickly investigate the death of Josephus Topa, who was killed as a result of the power theft issue. We must not encourage the fact that our citizens desirous of having access to power will lose their life because of water and power. And like I was saying, look, let's realistically face it. As president, I will lease up LEC tomorrow morning, the first day. And I will form a new corporation owned by Liberians exclusively. They don't necessarily have to have the money. We gave them LEC to run for the first 5 years. And we work with the legislature to sell it to them. And maybe we say, look, we're selling LEC for $300 million. After, assessing the assets. That group can then go out and form the kind of partnerships, the corporation. LEC will be a purely private affair run by these group of Liberians who will begin to make money. If they need some level of support through the central bank to the commercial bank, they can be supported. But it's not going to be a thing where when LEC has a problem, government subsidizes it. I remember during the Madam Sirleaf administration, we spent millions of dollars on LEC, and LEC did not bring one brass copper to the treasury. Now Boyka has come to power. It's our understanding, we stand to be corrected, that I think we owe 9 million, 11 million. People throw these figures around. But you journalists will know better, know better than me, that this new government has inherited this huge liability. So what happened with all the money that was paid to LEC? Now if LEC says power tech, then we say overhaul so that power tech become dormant. Leverage technology. You can see from Celcom, you can see from DSTV, you can see from Lone Star, you can see from any one of the technology-driven companies. You can go see from mobile money. Why are people stealing from LEC? Technology is there to correct that. You know how much power you generate, you know how much power you put in this area, you know how much you're getting out, you know where the difference is, you know how to punish an entire area to get compliance. But more besides, we're saying LEC, overhaul yourself, provided meters that people are craving for so that they don't have to steal the power. The US students, I think about 20, 30 of them were gathered and they were demanding some actions, and we saw that they were brutally handled. We think this government is starting on a bad track where it's brutally handling people, and I think it's in direct response to what the AFL wives did. But apparently they were afraid of the AFL wives because they thought the AFL guys would come to the streets. But now with the other citizens coming to the streets, they decided, look, let's be brutal. We think these things can be solved, but we also want to commend the fact that there has been some kind of understanding when it comes to these things. In concluding, ladies and gentlemen, many times we think Liberia is this country that we are God's special child, and that we have all of the opportunities, and that people will want to come here anyway. I said the other day when I spoke at CEO, with $500,000 US dollar, you will be granted a green card to live in America, you and your spouse and all your children, if you have $500,000. People who have $1 million, $2 million to invest, they can decide, look, let's pick Kenya, let's pick Tanzania, let's pick Ethiopia, let's pick Ghana, let's pick Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal. All of these economies are performing. Or the guy can decide, look, I don't want to invest in Africa, like an Indian friend of mine spoke to, we're trying to do sugar in Ghana, and he said, look, he's going to now invest in India because return on investment in India is far better than all of the headache in Africa. We in Liberia need to take some quick steps. We've said this several, and we said that during the past administration. let Liberia be a visa-free country. That's the first step to attracting investment. The reason why entrepreneurship flourished in places like Rwanda, Kenya, is because if you live in Tanzania or you live in Equatorial Guinea, you don't need visa to go to Rwanda. All you need is your plane ticket. So once that's isolated, you can go with your $200,000 and say, okay, I want to establish a nice restaurant a restaurant in Monrovia, right? And then now you're coming to invest $200,000. When we lift visa restrictions to Liberia, it's going to open a whole new floodgate of possibilities. Also, what attracts investors, and especially in the value addition sector, are things like the incentives that you give for investment. Start with us first. What kind of incentives are you giving to people that are investing in Liberia? The only thing that tax authorities may probably be interested in, even if you open your shop, man, you got to pay your taxes. In other economies, they incentivize, I'm sure you've heard big economic words like quantitative easing. Simple. The government of America gave money to businesses, gave them opportunities, and what happened? That money circulates within the economy and it creates jobs. We think if local businesses are incentivized, instead of the government being the largest employer, the private sector will be the largest employer. So let's say we want to attract businesses to Bon County. We can decide, look, if you establish a manufacturing business in Bon County, we're going to give you 100% duty-free for the next 5 years. We're going to target all businesses that will be established in Bon County will pay 10% corporate income tax or 5% corporate income tax. It means that businesses here and elsewhere abroad can say, oh, you know, if I establish in Bon County in Liberia, these are the possibilities I'm going to have. The other thing has to do with interest rate. This 14% interest rate regime for US dollar is crazy. Imagine America is on a 5% interest rate and you're having so much trouble in their part of the world. 14% kills. So what we need to do is to lower that interest rate to at least 9% to start. First step, 9%. The central bank needs to take that step. The second step the central bank needs to take is to increase the quantity of money commercial banks have access to. This whole thing of taking the depositors' deposit and keeping it at the central bank, using it for their own expenditure, investing it abroad or keeping it abroad, is strangulating the economy. We need to make sure banks have access to more resources. The third thing is increasing the single obligor limit. That single obligor limit is where you can only borrow $1 million from any of the local commercial banks. That's crazy. So if you want to go into large-scale agriculture where you need $10, $50 million, $1 million is a joke. So if you give more leverage to the commercial banks, they will be able to lend more, and the private sector will thrive, it will flourish, and the jobs that you should be creating in government, every later on, Dick and Harry is director, he's deputy minister, and so in that way he become a big boy overnight. Let these guys go and work in the private sector and understand how people like us have sleepless nights to make money and to earn money. Then in that way, the job structure will be in order, and then who all prospers. Imagine if we have thousands of businesses here. Every newspaper in this town will flourish because you don't have to be begging for advert. Radio stations will flourish. Online stuff will flourish because now you have lots of businesses generating capacity. At the current speed and trend, we will go nowhere if we don't change this trend. I want to thank you for coming, and we'll take some questions. Thank you so much.
Mr. Freeman, so my name is Alaska Johnson, I write for the Independent Probe. This is 43 days now since Mr. Boakai ascended to the hymn of power in this nation. But this is your fourth time publicly bashing this government. So it's like the rate could be like every 12 days you come out with something to bash the government.
You must be a statistician.
Why are you just on the woman's back without giving some chance to move the country forward? I mean, even though you say he's old, he's sick, he can't lead. But it's just, I mean, in my mind, it's too early. You may have another thought about it, and you've been saying it for the last 4 different appearances. But why are you just on his back like this?
So, Bossman, when you are in the job, and I say to the board, in this case, the Liberian people constitute the board of that company, the job this man is doing is sloppy. I can do a better job. And when you put me there, I will rescue this country. I will do it far better. I have capacity. I have the proven track record. And they put me there, and 42 days later, I have not even started moving. What does that say? I was only bashing you to get it. What we're saying is, Liberia needs creativity, clear capacity to move the country forward. And what we have gotten so far is a lack of capacity. Now tell me, why do we need to be creating a director of the cabinet again within the executive mansion? Do you know how many people he needs in his office? Do you know how much money he now needs to operate? The Ministry of State was using up $20 million. Now on a breaker, it may increase because now you have a larger infrastructure. We are saying we're sounding the alarm bell early enough, because we said it even during the elections that there is a lack of capacity. And so we're reminding that there is a lack of capacity. And you can see from the focus, the first focus of a president that got 17,000 more votes, not an overwhelming command to lead, is focusing on difficult areas that his predecessors abandoned, like war crime code, investigating this. The first thing you want to do is develop policies that will solve bread and butter issues to be accepted by the vast majority of the people that didn't vote for you. But you can see all of the missteps, and in the end, it's you and I that will have low on our head, so we're going to Sierra Leone and Guinea. We don't want that. So now we take the steps to correct it. Thank you so much.
Have you been able to meet Ambassador Joseph Mobala?
No, I haven't met him.
Power to give him some recommendation as a leader?
No, I haven't met him. I'm sure you have his number. Call him and tell him, look, gather key political leaders that have a clear vision along with your cabinet so you can hear from them and hear what methodologies they have that you could glean from them and apparently govern this country better.
Okay, so my name is Haji Masale. I come from Spoon TV. Mr. Freeman, you started this kind of advocacy and giving better pieces of advice to presidents dating back to the regime of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. But it seems like no one is taking you serious. What if President Boubacar appoints you as advisor to give all these pieces of advice to him directly? Will you accept?
So, Bossman, an advisor is a glorified position that gives you a diplomatic passport and a call card. Simeon Freeman is already group CEO of companies across West Africa. So I don't need a call card. If President Boubacar wants my input, like I've sat with other places, but I don't have that right to expose it, we can sit down and we can do documentations, roadmap to help them govern the country better. Now, are the people not taking me seriously? No, they are. They're not following the trend. Even if you go by the twisted result provided by NEC, even with that twisted result, they say there was some progress. But I think somebody was saying the goal of one guy called Appleton or so. So I don't know how NEC doing those votes that people that just came, nobody know, get more votes than people who have been here and went around. People say they won. But in any case, it's all part of the democratic process we're learning. But from the feedback we've gotten, Simeon Freeman is a brand name, is strong. People want him. What we now need to do in any succeeding elections is to put in place some of the structures and reach out in ways that it would be difficult for anybody to hurt us, even if they didn't like us.
My name is Lincoln Peters, and I read for the New Dawn newspaper, Mr. Freeman. I basically have like two questions for you.
Please go ahead, sir.
My first question has to do with the issue about the establishment of the World Economic Crimes Court.
Right.
We see Ambassador Boubacar making some effort. Listen to you just a moment ago, you talked about President Boubacar should focus on developing policies that will address the bread and butter issue. My question, do you think at this time the World Economic Crimes Court in the country is not necessary? That's one. Number two, President Boubacar also set up the assets recovery team. What's your perspective to that? And you talk about the situation in King George that President Walker has started on a bad footing. The justification from the police IG was that there was a resistant force from the protesters that which prompted the people within the policy of dischargement to fire live bullet. Why do you make of such?
What do you expect the police to say? He's killed people. The police doesn't have rubber bullets. At least simply put, you're supposed to have rubber bullets. Every country has that. We don't have it. You discharge live bullets. If people are rioting or demonstrating and they say, oh, we don't want this. Huh? Let me just take you back. When Charles Taylor was rebel leader in Banga, he had a MPRAG. A lot of you remember that are much older. The people of Grand Bassa said, no MPFL fighter should enter Grand Bassa. You remember that story? Maybe some of you too young, but in the 90s. Right? They went there, some of you all remember. They went there, MPFL did not shoot a single shot, even though it was a rebel arrangement. They went there, Taylor sent Isaac Musa. The person said, we don't want to see Isaac Musa. We want to see Charles Taylor. Taylor went with the people, they went to the fairground. And that was when this boy called Bill Horace became the commander in Bassa. They said they didn't want any other tribe to be over there. They wanted their own Bassa boys. That's when this boy, DKB and all of them came up because they were part of the fighting force and put them there. If the Minister of Labor had gone with his team to that place and introduced himself as the Minister of Labor, you think they would have beat him up? Let's be realistic. But the first thing you did, you sent police people. You send them, they come, whoa, you know, all around. So what happened? The people reacted out of fear. And out of fear, what did you do? You shot at them. And then you say the people were violent. Well, this too is Liberia. That, nothing will happen. I remember when Boyka then were in opposition, they said all of the investigations set up by George Weah, nothing happened. Now this is his time. Let's see what's going to happen with this investigation. The second one has to do with War Crime Code. Did you follow the War Crime Code in Sierra Leone? I think after millions of dollars spent, I think only 3 or 4 people hang out normal and 3 other guys, and now the whole War Crime Code business was finished. Look, gentlemen, let's be realistic. If somebody was killed from anybody right now, if I kill your wife or your sister, are you going to wait for War Crime Code? Let's be realistic. Are you going to wait for that? No. You take me to court. Whatever happened during the war, those who have the resources, and we've been arguing, what they can do, bring those resources, pay lawyers, pay private security firms to provide witness protection program, facilitate witnesses, and whoever it is that is seen as violating or have violated or have killed, can take that person to court, and actions will be taken at our courts. All of the war criminals that have been tried in America, do they have a war crime code there? Do they have a war crime code in Europe? No. So you see, we have to be realistic. Crimes, our court system is adequate to deal with crime. When we begin to change our focus and focus on those things that do not add value, then we will be looking in directions that's not going to add value. In my mind, this whole thing about war economic crime court is going to burden the judiciary. Where's the money going to come from? You have to establish that court. Don't forget, the same external advice. You remember we have Ministry of Lands and Mines? They came, they said, take lands as a way to solve it, create a lands bureau. Say we create a land bureau. Do we say our land issue? So I'm talking to y'all, we have to lecture.
Yes.
We said we can plenty of land issues, but we created a land bureau. The international community provided the for 3 million, I think 3 million or so. After that, they say, well, now your headache. Land commission now is on us. Every year, they have to put money there. Nothing is happening. They have no other power. So you see the reality, boss man, sometimes when somebody comes to you, the way they can approach women in America is different from the way we can approach women here. Here you can look at that girl whole day. She will be smiling. In America, you look at her, she will say you're sexually harassing her. Different societies, different approaches. In Africa here, used to put ring on woman hand. Now in the city, you see people doing those things now. You're like, too much where people show you're doing those things. But in the interior, they never used to do those things. Here, the approaches are different. So as president, when you are spoken to, you have to know what your priority areas are that will give you bread and butter solutions, and you must be able to recommend some other things. But all of this path that we're on, 17,000 votes gave you win, the government is not formed, the first priority discussion, audit, World Economic Crime Court, seriously? It's not adding up. Tell it on the issue of asset recovery. Busman, even during the old administration, you see sometimes when Simeon Freeman talking, you see like simple technology. As president of Liberia, we wouldn't have anything called asset issue. Because that whole asset recovery, think about it. There are another committee you have to put together. That committee will tell you they need $1 million to collect OO card and you don't even know where they are. Let's start from there. Then $2 million you put into that committee. After 3 months, they will say we collected 10 Jeep and so that's not even value the money you gave them. In essence, what we need to do now is to make a definition. That's important for me. If you work for government, who in government is entitled to a car? Is he a minister? Is he a deputy minister? Is he an assistant minister? If those are the people you want to give car to and you say yes, then the car will not be for government, but it will be an asset that they pay for. We give you the car costs $20,000. What government decides? Government will pay 60% of the value of that car. And you pay 40%. How do we do it? Your pay is $1,000. The 60% that we want to pay, at the end of every month, we pay that money to your salary, right? So that means if paying for the car over the next 5 years, we value the car in the next 5 years, and the car probably will cost you about $400 a month, the government give you 60% of that amount, that's about $240. The balance wants something, you will have to pay that into ownership. If we fire you before 5 years, what happens when you go to the used car lot and you lease car and you say I will be paying for it, and after a while, after 1 year you can't pay? What happens? They take it from you. Thank you. Somebody answered that question. They take it from you. So it's a simple commercial principle. If we give you the car, we fire your behind. In 2 years time, we take our car from you. If you want to buy that car, you pay the full value of the car, and it's yours. You can, you lose your equity in the car, and that's it. That's the commercial principle. In that way, when the government is transition, we'll not be discussing looking for setting up committee. Let me tell you something. These government committees don't work. What happened when the committee workers say you are setting up for drugs? The people don't even know each other. They don't call themselves. Everybody, Ministry of Health is not even complete. We don't even know what's happening at the hospitals. People are dying. People cannot even deliver. The hospitals don't even have drugs. Nobody knows what's happening. Journalists are not biting on those things. And we're sitting down and we're more concerned about World Economic Crime Court. When that thing went to Sierra Leone, they arrested, I think, about 4 or 5 people. They got finished with that whole case. Millions of dollars was locked up, and that's it. Finish.
Mr. Freeman,
Go ahead.
Joe Farnboy, I work for the Global News Network. I might not be correct word for word. In your opening statement, you did say this country needs to be given to the business people. Look from that background. Don't you think creating a dialogue between you and the current government to start engaging ideas how the business people can create means of bringing some of the ideas that you just talked about here on board that the Liberian people want to see. So after 6 years, when you shall stand, they will vote for you. Don't you think it will be right to do that?
So, Bossman, sometimes when you're talking, you're going to think. Just now, I tell them my laptop here. I take my car, I go to work out. Hey, y'all will be the same person. They beef fish and all that things. People talking looking for a job. And how you say? And that's writing. No, that's writing. So that's the reality. You got Boyka number. Call him. Say, Mr. Boyka, please organize a meeting of stakeholders. Invite well-meaning Liberians that are in the open. Let them proffer clear ideas that you can take and run the country. When our open businesses are hire capable people. If you're incapable, we'll fire you. If you're capable, we keep you on. We take your ideas. When the company runs Google Shine, the Simeon Freeman. So if he takes our idea and the country runs well, they will say Boyka tenure was good. So tell him, don't tell me. When you tell me, you're saying to me, go to them. I'm not going to stay on any land to see your president.
People. Now
Yeah, I'm advocating for the Liberian people, but that advocacy we communicate in several ways. When the Ministry of Information have a press conference or the president issues an executive order, he doesn't send me a letter, he posts it on the executive mansion website, you see it, I see it, and I bow there. So similarly, if the president wants us, all he has to do, use the method of communication. Since I don't have that contact with them, all I'm doing, we're using this medium and we're communicating. If they take what we've said, fine. If they don't and they want to have a meeting, we're open. I'm not going to take my bag, go over there, and somebody can say, they will say, oh, see the BB fish, then I can't use so. Newsflash, Simeon Freeman, I got her looking for a job, and I give you that here.